to ensure that the people and communities in East Africa are protected, that human rights are guaranteed, and that the laws that govern these countries are implemented to the letter.
Where we are seeing abductions happening, beyond borders, and these abductions are happening sanctioned or blessed by presidents, blessed by heads of state, and they are taking advantage of the fact that at the ground we are not as united against them. That is why we have Ugandan voice here, you have Kenyan voice here, you have Tanzanian voice here. Thank you so much for that question. How confident are we that the President of Uganda will listen? And this is just a beginning, a culmination of solidarity in the region. We are having cross-border repression. We are having transnational repression where we are seeing abductions happening, beyond borders. And these abductions are happening sanctioned or blessed by presidents, blessed by heads of state. And they are taking advantage of the fact that at the ground, we are not as united against them. That is why we have Ugandan voice here, you have Kenyan voice here, you have Tanzanian voice here to continue putting pressure. This is not just the only pressure that we are going to put just addressing the press and other media, but also to take on petitions, to reach out to whoever can be, whether it's through marches to deliver the petitions, to do online petitions, and to do other forms of campaigns so that we have Kizza Besigye and others unlawfully detained released. In Uganda yesterday, there were protests for the release of these friends of ours who are unlawfully detained. This shows that this action is already yielding fire everywhere. Also, we have managed to send trial observation missions or to be part of trial observation missions in these particular cases where we have traveled to Kampala. We have visited Kizza Besigye in prison at Luzira prison. We have visited Aaron Kizza, a fellow lawyer, in the Kitalia prison. And so these are just but efforts that in the long run must yield fruits and will not relent. Thank you very much for that question.
This might be the only Ugandan who can string a full sentence in Swahili, but I'll not attempt. Please bear with me to answer in English. So, how confident are we? It's a good question. General Museveni's own personal history as a guerrilla is evidence that people power can defeat the gun. First. Two, recent events in Senegal, Burkina Faso, Cameroon, Nigeria, Bangladesh, Kenya here is further evidence that gives us confidence that these actions are not in vain. The third and final piece of evidence that gives us confidence is the backlash that we see being meted out on citizens, on lawyers, on journalists, and others engaged in this effort. Facebook has been scrambled in Uganda for more than 5 years now. The same government that scrambled it uses that platform to pass over information and announcements on a platform that is scrambled because they know what the digital revolution means and what it can deliver in terms of people power. The last question was about cases of abductions in Uganda and whether it is as intense or if not more than the situation in Kenya. First, I would caution us against quantifying abductions and creating a table because one life is too many. The principle should be that the right to life is indivisible and cannot be quantified, and that once that is violated, the perpetrators are just as guilty or liable as if it happened to 100, 1, 10 or so people. That said, Yes, there has been abductions. The recent count places it at 6,000, and as cases have been resolved in courts, the count has dropped to 3,000. But you have to understand the context, that every election in Uganda is treated as a military operation. So the regime in Kampala has been waging an undeclared war, a low-intensity conflict against young Ugandans, particularly in the central region and elsewhere, but particularly in the central region. So when I mention a count as high as 6,000, it's not misplaced. Rotting away in jails, some bodies have been discovered, thrown away in forests and other such locations. Lastly, what message to Museveni, General Museveni? General Museveni, you took power before I was born. I am now a tax-paying adult. I don't yet have children, but my age mates have children. Bobby Wine was 4 years old when you took power. It's a shame that you've not groomed leaders to succeed you and are instead promoting family rule against the very constitution under whose administration, which was promulgated under your administration. So for me, it's a question of shame and a sense of justice, not just for himself, but also for his family. Thank you.
So briefly, what next? As my brother Steve read in the statement, we will be marching on 21st of February to present a petition. But more importantly, what we want to communicate is that the first and very important step that we need to take, that we are taking currently, is to bring the people together. We want to bring the communities of Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania to speak as one, East Africans. A Jumuiya ya Afrika Mashariki. We want to leave that. An abduction in Uganda is an abduction in Kenya, is an abduction in Tanzania. A human rights violation in Tanzania is a human rights violation in Kenya, is a human rights violation in Uganda. Any form of oppression in Kenya, it is oppression in Uganda and it is oppression in Tanzania. We are one people. We have to understand that these governments, particularly the heads of states, are working together to silence their critics, with Kenya being the zero ground for abductions in the East African region. So the next steps, we will explore every possible avenue to ensure that the people and communities in East Africa are protected, that human rights are guaranteed, and that the laws that govern these countries are implemented to the letter. So the next steps are very many. We can go to court. We have the international arena. You know, we have local courts. But more importantly, as I said, we want to bring Kenyans, Ugandans, Tanzanians together to speak as one. That is our resolve, and we intend to ensure that we are able to do that in the next coming few days. Thank you. I don't know if